Do you think we could just start by just going around and saying your first name?
Angie.
Nice to meet you.
Larry.
Awesome.
Austin, did you say? Nice.
Kayla. Stephanie. Cheyenne. Michaela. Riley.
Ben.
Chris.
Jason?
Asa.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me in. It sounds like a great program that you have, and it's great to just get a chance to come over and talk to you on campus. I'm from the heart of Biddeford, and I'm the director there. We are a Main Street program, so there are 10 of these in the state of Maine and 2,200 across the country. And I put a slideshow together to be able to tell you a little bit about what we do, why we do it. We do economic development and community development, but as a nonprofit, as opposed to being like a city organization, part of the city. So I'll tell you a little bit about how that happens. All the Main Street programs, whether you're here or New Mexico, they use the same 4-point approach to economic and community development. And so I'll just go through some slides telling what those 4 points are. The idea is that if a community does its own community development and economic development through committees and volunteerism, the development that you do will respect the past of where you came from and use the assets that are here, as opposed to like trying to make Biddeford into somebody else's town. So we have 3,000 hours of volunteerism each year, people who are on these committees and come to events that create what's going on in the downtown right now. So the first one is the Promotions Committee. And this group promotes for downtown, mostly through events, getting people to come downtown for like the River Jam Festival, music in the park. We help with Art Walk. Maybe when you were little you came and did the Halloween downtown. Did anybody do trick-or-treating when you were young? There's about 700 kids who come for Halloween right along Main Street, and same with the Easter events. The Downtown Holiday Festival usually has about 1,500 people come that night. So they try to get people to come downtown, see what's going on, see what kind of stores are there while they're there. And there's also other kinds of promotions, like putting ads in the newspapers about Biddeford or what's going on, or we put together a coupon book you see up on the upper left-hand corner. That was a way to just get people to know that there's a lot of businesses that you can shop at in the downtown. We also, this committee would help with other fundraisers that we do, like on Sunday night, 2 nights ago, we did something called a Community Super. One of the restaurants hosted it, and 11 restaurants donated soup for the night, and then people came and paid $10, and so we made $750 that night to give to Stone Soup Food Pantry, Bon Appetit, and Friends of Community Action. So it's kind of making sure that everybody benefits from what's going on in the downtown. That's that committee. Then there's the Design Committee, and they look out for how things look in the downtown. If you attract a whole bunch of people downtown from this event, but they're walking around and seeing a lot of trash on the sidewalks or a lot of storefronts that look kind of old-fashioned or something like that, then they're not going to really want to come back that much. So the Design Committee will go into a business and help that business redesign their storefront. They also have recruited 10 different groups to adopt the parks throughout the downtown area. So that's all kinds of volunteers who are cleaning up trash and dog poop that sometimes comes there, and pruning and weeding and things like that. They'll also do things like, you can see on that wall, that's in Chevenel Park, which is next to like the Bangor Savings or across from BB's Burritos, if you know that place. They had this artist make a mosaic about salmon and then put that up on the wall. So just little kind of beautification things throughout the downtown. Next group is the Organization Committee. They're the ones who are kind of like the engine that keep things running for the organization. So they recruit the volunteers, train them, and orient them and do the appreciation for them. They also do the fundraising for the organization. So on Saturday night, we had a concert at City Theater. We invited this singer in. People paid $15 a ticket, and we made $1,500 for the organization, just to make sure that we can run the programs that we do and pay the staff that we have. The organization committee also does outreach they would do something like this, come to the school and talk about what Heart of Biddeford does, or go to another business and talk about how people can get involved. They're kind of the outreach arm of the organization, and they also help with writing grants. So we've won different grants at different times to help put on different initiatives that I'll tell you about. One that I forgot to tell you about on the design committee, we had a Healthy Main Streets grant, and with that, they helped 10 businesses put in place initiatives for their employees around nutrition and exercise and stopping smoking. And then we also put this workout station down in Mechanics Park down by the river, so just kind of increasing health in the area. And the fourth committee is called the Business Enhancement Committee. Sometimes when people think about, the downtown effort or something like that, they think it's all about the businesses. But actually, as you can see, there's 3 other committees that are thinking about things besides the businesses. But there is one committee that's really there to make sure that the businesses that have been around a long time can stick around, and also that we can recruit new businesses. And so, right, like this summer, there's a big construction season going on in the downtown. This committee will make sure that all the businesses know about the construction that's happening and what kind of detours will be happening. They also did the Main Street Challenge that I'll talk about in a second to recruit more businesses to the downtown. When I started my job 4 years ago, the organization's been around for 10 years, but when I started it 4 years ago, there was 30% vacancy rate throughout the downtown. So 3 out of 10 buildings were empty on the first floor. And now it's an 11% vacancy rate. So we've gotten a lot of businesses coming in, and some of that is due to the work of the Business Enhancement Committee. Just to tell you a little bit more about the Main Street Challenge, there was a business competition that we put together in kicked it off in 2012. And we put together a $10,000 forgivable loan, plus $10,000 of other incentives like some free rent, legal help, accounting, website design, and things like that. And we were able to bring in 3 new businesses. And these businesses, sometimes businesses come in and they don't have a business plan. Maybe they've cleaned out their grandmother's closet and they're going to open a secondhand store. And they don't invest any money in it. And it's really, what's happening now in our economy is you can't do that. Those businesses close very quickly. You need to have businesses that have a really good business plan and really invest in themselves so that they can stay in business. Have you been to Elements, the coffee shop and bookstore downtown? It's right across from the library. He won that $10,000 forgivable loan, but he ended up investing $40,000 into that space, which to me is a lot of money. But now it's a really popular spot that's kind of like a gathering place for people in Biddeford, and they're doing a lot more networking. And if one of the lawyers downtown wants to meet with an architect or something, they don't have to do it in their stuffy offices. They can come to a cool coffee shop and see the high school students and college students and faculty who are also, from UNE, who are part of our town, and kind of see all that's going on in one public place. So it's really working well. We also did, what happens with that too is you have a lot of storefronts in the downtown that kind of looked like this in the pictures, maybe hadn't had a business in there for 10 years or longer, or maybe had never gone through a renovation. So they look like that, but then after the Main Street Challenge, you've got, here's some examples from 4 businesses that are really beautiful spaces. And on some level, you might be thinking, so your organization is about bringing stores to Biddeford, how important can that be? But if that's what economic development, that's part of what economic development is. If you have a building that's empty, the property owner pays so much taxes a year. If it's renovated and full, they pay many times that per year to the city. For example, the North Dam Mill, it's one of the mill buildings right before you cross the river into Saco. 10 years ago, they were paying $10,000 a year to the city in taxes. Now they pay $120,000 a year in taxes. And every time that happens with a building, that means the families within the city pay less taxes from their individual homeowners' taxes or other taxes that they pay. So the idea is if you have a thriving downtown where all the buildings are full and there's lots of businesses in it, and then the businesses are investing in the space, that brings a lot more money to the city. And that improves the economy and makes the living for people within the city better. So if you can keep your taxes from going up, people are very happy about that, so we're trying to be part of that solution. Just briefly, here's some of the businesses that have opened in the last 3 years. And I'll show some of the pictures of them, but it's kind of a new variety of businesses. Honestly, for several years in a row, because the mills closed in the, over the course of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, there was just so much vacancy in the downtown that the property owners couldn't really charge people much to be in there. So it really attracted a lot of, like more than your average number of tattoo parlors, and do you know what a head shop is? Sell paraphernalia for marijuana. So, a lot of shops that had that available, and not kinds of shops that would draw a variety of people to the downtown. And so when we started having more investment in the storefronts and more shops like Elements or Districts and Company or the clothing store Sugar, I'll show you some of these pictures, it was attracting more businesses to come like this and fill up those spaces. And now there's a variety, and yes, you could still find several tattoo parlors or head shops, but it's like a small percentage of the total instead of kind of the majority of what you were seeing down there. So if you can have a diverse business mix in the downtown, that means you can serve the whole city's needs plus visitors who come out of town. And if you can bring visitors in, they actually end up spending a lot more money than people who live locally, because when you're on vacation, you tend to spend money. So that's good for the city as well. And just page through these are just some pictures of the Palace Diner, Angel Rock's clothing store. She moved here from Brooklyn to, go ahead and keep rolling. This is called the Yard at the Mill. It's a huge open space in one of the mills. It's for 6 and under kids who want to come play inside. They've been open for 2 months. They already have 300 monthly payments, monthly memberships per month. People are paying in there. So it's a boom. Tons of people want to bring their families to downtown Biddeford. Next door to Portland Pie, which moved here. Portland Pie has 5 stores. Their biggest grand opening of any of them happened at Biddeford's Portland Pie. And in February, they told me that they had their best day of any of their pizza places, any of the Portland Pie, and it happened in Biddeford. So it's kind of showing that Biddeford is going through a transformation right now. Here's Engine Gallery, which has had a lot of gallery showings plus 3D printing. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they've got a fab lab there for doing that. Here's Angel Rock's working on Roxy Sugar. They're working on her clothing designs. Bloom's, a flower store, just opened. And here's Awesome Hobby Shop. They have anybody who plays Magic should definitely check that place out, because they've got all kinds of cards and comic books and collectibles like that. And I just wanted people to see some of those pictures of what's going into the downtown, because there was a period when just everything was closing in the downtown and people were not feeling a lot of pride about being from Biddeford. But I want you to see that people are really drawn to this area. That Palace Diner that you saw there, they just got, there's a magazine called Bon Appetit that's like this national food magazine. Palace Diner was named top 50 new restaurants in the country in that magazine. And that's here in Biddeford, Maine, so that's pretty cool. Here's some of the people that we work with. The idea is that Heart of Biddeford is not doing everything that's happening in the downtown. We're part of, working with as many groups as possible, from the city to Engine to the Biddeford Mills Museum to the Chamber, UNE, the schools, just all working together to help the revitalization move forward. Broadening our outreach and areas of support. One thing about sustainable development is if you only focus your development on businesses, then the businesses thrive, but the rest of the community doesn't necessarily thrive. So we've been also focusing a lot on community efforts. Heart of Biddeford now runs the Memorial Day and Veterans Day Parade. You want the community to have a place to come together and celebrate where we came from and people who served our country. Also, in our volunteerism, we just started a program with DHHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, to tie volunteer opportunities with job preparation. So if you, particularly a person living in poverty, so coming through DHHS, and you want some skills in social media marketing, or you need to work on customer service, or you just want to be able to show that you do show up on time 4 days a week for a volunteer opportunity, you can come to Heart of Biddeford, get that volunteer opportunity, and then leave with a letter of recommendation and something for your resume. And the 3 people who have started with us this spring working on this have been incredible, made a big impact in the downtown, and they're also now doing outreach for jobs, and they have more networking connections from having had the volunteer experience. So that's one part of it. And then just talking about just working with other groups like the Biddeford Mills Museum, making sure that everybody's involved in this. And I think there was another part to that slide that's okay, probably, no, go ahead. The next one is collaborations with the city. I think the rest of the header got cut off. And that's just talking about that the city pays Heart of Biddeford $20,000. I don't think the writer just pays, but contributes $20,000 a year to Heart of Biddeford. And it's because in order to be a Main Street program, you actually have to have the city be one of your partners. And so $20,000 is sort of like the city's way of saying, we support what's going on, we want to see what's going on. And even if we didn't do this bulleted list, we would be about building pride and development in the community, which is good for the city. But specifically, we have done things that have lightened the load for the city, like the Adopt a Park program. That's, I think it's $100,000 worth of volunteerism that comes to the city. No, I'm sorry, it's $56,000 of volunteerism that comes to the city from people who are willing to volunteer their time. And so the city doesn't have to come up with extra money to find staff to do the weeding and pruning and cleaning in the parks. They've got volunteers to do it because we coordinate that. We, help the city with getting the word out about an app that they have, Access Biddeford. We've been going to all the downtown Biddeford stores and saying, please sign up for this so we get everybody on Access Biddeford. We did the Main Street Challenge, Main Street Challenge Encore, and we also facilitate the Main Street Makeover program so that the city puts money into a fund so that if downtown building owners want to put up signs or do an improvement to their storefront, we help facilitate a grant to match what the building owners put into it. So those are just some of the ways that we partner directly with the city. And just in summary, how it happens is through a lot of volunteer work. I work 30 hours a week, and then we have an office manager who works 20 hours a week. And yet, over 3,000 hours of volunteerism comes each year to make the rest of it happen. I think of myself a bit as a coordinator, but it's really just coordinating the initiative and ideas of lots of people. One more. I think I missed a slide. Maybe I sent you the wrong one. I had a screen specifically about what Biddeford High School students have done in the downtown. High school students were part of the downtown master planning process. That happened in 2009 and 10. And students were extremely involved in that and even did interviews of their grandparents, getting stories about what made Biddeford what it is. And that became part of this Heart and Soul process, which formed a master plan. People that graduated that year, some of them went to college in the area and then have stayed working in the area, and then they come help out with Heart of Biddeford as well. So I think that was kind of their way to find out about the downtown and then continue giving back. And then Interact has been involved in a lot of things like the Chalk on the Walk Festival and River Jam Festival and Downtown Holiday Festival. And then students have also come and helped out with when we coordinate a United Way Day of Caring each spring, doing park cleanups. Students come to that. But if there are other ways students want to be involved, joining a committee, being on the board of the Heart of Biddeford, or just helping out with events, we always welcome involvement. And the last slide is just saying that you belong to Heart of Biddeford, and we'd love to have as many people involved with as many different ideas as possible. And then I have plenty of time for questions.
I have a quick question. What is your annual budget?
Our annual budget for several years was $60,000. And the idea when you start up a Main Street is that the municipality contributes 1/3 of that. 1/3 comes from private businesses, and then 1/3 comes from sponsorships usually. But in the last couple of years, we've doubled that because we've gotten specific grants to carry out specific programs. So we've been operating at 120,000, but that's because, for example, that Healthy Main Streets grant was $40,000 that we had to then spend on the Healthy Main Streets programs. So it's somewhere between, an annual operating budget of 60,000 plus higher than that if we have specific grants.
And I'll give you guys more time to think of lots of questions. The volunteer, the VISTA program, now, is that only for referrals through DHSS, or could students participate in that as well?
Absolutely, students can participate in it, any family member can participate in that. That's particularly saying that if you are, there are people in DHHS right now that are required to do volunteer work in order to keep their TANF benefits. That's if you don't have children or you're not disabled. And so it's, to me, not very fair that somebody's going to say to you, in order to keep your benefits, you have to do volunteerism. But we're not going to tell you where to go or give you a good resource for that. So Hard Biddeford saying, if you want to come to a place and get good work experience and make network connections, come to us. We're going to, give you an experience that you can leave with a letter of recommendation.
Any other questions, guys? Have you guys ever been to Biscuits and Company or Dahlia's?
I have.
Dahlia's,
I go
yeah.
there every Friday.
Yeah.
Every Friday, wow.
I also like Lost Chapati toast.
Oh, yes. Me too.
I could have that every night.
It's really good, isn't it?
I also like that coffee shop.
The Elements?
I go
Yeah,
there like once a week.
Great.
yeah, if you guys like coffee, check out Elements. It's great stuff.
Oh my god, I know. And their their scones are really good too.
Thanks. You're definitely a fan.
So-
What other kinds of things? I know you're going to have to answer some questions about, comparing Heart of Biddeford with other organizations that you're listening to. Is there anything that, as you listen to what I'm talking about, you're wondering, but, what is the impact, or, who does this impact, or, questions like that? Anything?
Could you talk a little bit maybe about your own personal history and how you get to be, where you are and doing what you're doing? And
Sure.
that path?
There's absolutely no logical path to how I'm doing what I'm doing. I was a philosophy major in college and then went to school in education for higher ed administration, worked on college campuses for 16 years. And I also facilitated different, I had a consulting group that facilitated dialogues on topics like racism and sexism to help organizations work better together. And then when I moved to Maine, my husband and I decided to have a child. And so for 3 years I was just doing consulting, and then this job opened up. And I'd been already really involved in the downtown because I liked to come to events and I liked to live in a town. I mean, the reason why we chose Biddeford Saco area was because you could live close to the downtown, walk downtown, get everything you want in one place, but not feel like you're in a huge city, not be in Portland where you do have to drive around a lot of places. My husband takes the bus every morning and I try to walk to work too, so we're a one-car family. And then this job opened up, and to tell you the truth, I had to do a Wikipedia search on economic development. I didn't really know what comes under that heading. You're in charge of economic development. And I think it's more that I did a lot of community development. I was running the residence halls in schools, so in colleges, so kind of helping large groups of people work together, and that's why I think I fit for this job. And then the economic development part, I think, has mostly been me going to trainings. Like next week I get to go to Atlanta for 3 days to go to the National Main Street Conference. I know, it's going to be hot too. And then, you take ideas, and then nobody had done anything exactly like the Main Street Challenge, but because I'm also a singer-songwriter and kind of used to doing creative things, I thought, well, let's put together some creative ideas and then ask all these businesses if they will help with it. And so I'm just used to bringing people together, and that's why I think this job has been a great fit for me.
I know we had a Mayor Cassidy come in earlier in the year and talk about a lot of the things that were going on, especially along the Main Street corridor and through the mills. What do you view as kind of the most challenging things going forward, and where do you kind of see Heart of Biddeford and that area going within the next 10, 15 years?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of challenging things. One, I think, is for Biddeford to reclaim pride in itself in the downtown. There were a lot of years where storefronts were just closing one after the other, and people started to feel like this place is never gonna make it. And when Maine Energy, you know, the Merck site, do you know where that is in the downtown? There was a trash incinerator in the middle of the downtown with this hope that it would be, you know, making trash cheaper for the city and making, it was supposed to make alternative energy with trashed energy, but it never did. So what you really had was this very smelly thing in the middle of the downtown, which was hard to get rid of because it employed 80 people. I'm sorry, let's get rid of 80 jobs in this tough economy. That was a very difficult thing to do, but they did it a couple of years ago. The city council voted to have it removed from the downtown. And since that's happened, a whole lot of development has come through. In fact, a $50 million investment in one of the mills, Lincoln Mill, is kicking off right now. The person bought it, and he's going to be putting that kind of money in it. But locally, it's hard to believe again that the downtown could be a place that people could be proud of and excited about. And you go to Elements and you go to Dahlia's, but a lot of people just haven't been back downtown because, well, I know what it's like, I know how it's been. Or they're prejudiced. They say, well, there's people down there who are poor, or you know, there's some people who look pretty distressed down there sometimes because our city is not like, I don't know what, Kennebunkport or something like that. Yeah, we have, you know, a diverse population, and so some people are like, I'm not going downtown because I'm not used to that or something. But I think if people reclaim pride in the city and have hope in it again, I think that will move us through that challenge. I honestly think the other challenge is we're starting to get a lot of attention from a lot of different places. So this $50 million investor is coming in. Other people are purchasing buildings and putting investment in it. And it's important that Biddeford doesn't get off its path that it's been going on, which has been about respecting where Biddeford came from. There's this incredible industrial past. I think that word is really good. Industrious people worked in those mills, came here from many different countries to build Biddeford how it is now. And I don't want people to come in and say, well, none of that is important. We want to be exactly like Kennebunkport or, you know, some other city in Maine. We want to still be Biddeford, so I think that's the other challenge. And a real practical one is the more this development happens, the more we're going to need parking in the downtown. And the city of Biddeford are going to have to decide how that parking gets paid for.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, yeah. I can say more, but that's really the essence of it, that people, Biddeford and the leadership are going to have to decide how that parking happens.
Yeah. Now, you guys are living in a very interesting time for this city. You know, having grown up here, I know what it was like when I was younger. There was still some, not as many jobs, but there were still some jobs in the mills. Those have since dried up, and we went through a little bit of a period of a long struggle, and now it's kind of turning the corner back the other way, where, you know, it's becoming a very vibrant area now, and it's due to a lot of the hard work from you know, Delilah and Heart of Biddeford, as well as Mayor Cassavant, a lot of other people, but it's becoming an area, like you said, to be proud of. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys do really good work.
Thank you.
You guys have any other questions? Any final thoughts?
No, just I really appreciate that you're in this class and doing this project, and it's really cool to, basically you're a board of directors dispersing, you know, $1,000. There's whole foundations that do this work, and this is great, you know, real world training for things you do.
Yeah, it's a fun project.
All right, well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
I
Appreciate
need
it.
a nap.
Uh-oh, was I that boring?
No. I am not a morning person. Towards the afternoon, I'm a little late.
Are you serious?
My day is up.
Did you hear?